honourable member for Halton.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, politicians are citizens who other citizens nominate and elect and represent them in their interests. As such, the bond between them is quite simple. It is called trust. If and when that bond is broken, there can be no greater disconnect or breach or falling out or betrayal between them. The people are no longer represented. Instead, Speaker, I would say they are ruled. Today we're debating the implementation of the 2007 federal budget, a document which affects the lives of millions of Canadians in thousands of different ways. Some are beneficial and some are not. My remarks concern themselves today with just one aspect of this, and that trust I mentioned between politicians and the people, and it's at the very heart of what I wish to say. In the last election campaign, the man who is now Prime Minister of Canada said over and over again, from podiums from one end of this country to the next, including my area, that a Conservative government would not tax income trusts. He then put it in writing in an op-ed article in the National Post. He then directed that it be published in the party's platform called Stand Up for Canada. In short, the man who is now Prime Minister could not have been clearer in his messaging to income trust investors, many of whom are seniors. He said, "Relax, you are safe if you vote for us. Unlike the Liberals and the NDP, we will never attack your income trusts." Well, Speaker, now we know that he lied. The government brought in a tax on income trusts on the 31st of October of last year, which tanked the stock market and erased $25 billion.
Order. The honourable member from Halton is not a rookie. He knows that he can't accuse other members of lying, and so I would ask him to withdraw the accusation against the Prime Minister.
Thank you, Speaker. I withdraw the accusation. The Prime Minister said one thing and did another. This actually caused investors in this country to lose more than $25 billion in private savings. Now, most of those people were retired. They could not possibly, will not possibly be able to recoup these losses. And, of course, it is the biggest single erosion of private savings ever caused by a single government action. And with that one draconian, as it turned out, stupid and costly and senseless action, the Conservative leader broke faith with the people. He breached it, he destroyed it, he threw it away. He is no longer representing the income trust investors that he asked to vote for him. Now he is ruling them, telling them they must live with the gratuitous pain that this government has caused. And this government seeks to make this breach of faith now, with this bill, the law of the land. And that is why I voted against the budget and why I cannot support this enabling legislation. Shame on those who wrote it and seek to impose it upon Canadians. But, Mr. Speaker, today I'm not going to add any more of my words to this debate. Instead, I will turn to average Canadian investors. This week on my blog, I mentioned I would have the opportunity of standing here for a few minutes, Mr. Speaker, speaking about this issue. I asked individual Canadians if they'd send me some messages that they would like conveyed to this House. I was overwhelmed with response. I would like my honourable colleagues to listen for a couple of minutes to some of the messages. Mr. Don Boole of Courtenay, British Columbia writes, "For me, it's not having the proof of tax leakage. The blacked out pages by the Finance Department pretty well say it all. I could live with changes to income trust if it were proven this was good for the economy. Just give me good reasons for changing income trust policy and I'll eat my loss," he says. I don't know much about the particulars of trust, but when they presented blanked out pages, I studied the trust, and a simple person like me could see the fix was in. I have been taken for a schmuck, says Mr. Poole in Courtenay, British Columbia. Ron Murray says, "I am a senior citizen that dropped some $30,000 because of Flaherty's the Minister of Finance's complete misunderstanding dealing with income trusts. No discussion, no notice, lying to the public, Mr. Speaker, saying one thing to the public and doing another, refusing to give background of his numbers on the tax loss. Mr. Murray says, I sent a letter to my local member of Parliament. I called him. I went to his office. I was muzzled with the party line. I'm not sure my MP had a clue what an income trust is. The main reason, according to the Member of Parliament opposite, I won't name him, was that we are in the only country in the world that does not tax income trust. Mr. Murray says, phooey. We have Tom and Ethna Anderson. Quote, the current government broke its promise not to tax income trusts. These actions have seriously lessened our confidence in the government's ability to govern with honesty and integrity. Donald Metcalf from Hanover, Ontario says, my wife and I are devastated by the damage the decision of the government to tax income trusts, what it has done to our investments and our monthly income. We are both seniors. We rely on this monthly income. We're down more than $1,200 a month. This is robbery. It has affected our living in a major way. We talked to our Conservative Member of Parliament, again in sympathy, Mr. Speaker, I will not name him. And that Member of Parliament told us, that is Donald Metcalf and his wife, the Prime Minister, Speaker, would not allow his fellow members of Parliament any say. The question then for Mr. Metcalf, why do we elect MPs to represent us when the Prime Minister is a dictator? Here is from Elmer Sather of Surrey, British Columbia. I am in shock. I am speechless over how these income trusts are being taken over by foreigners. Mr. Speaker, he says, it is staggering. The Martinson family says this. The Prime Minister told people something, Mr. Speaker, and did something else. This person uses a more descriptive term. The government has successfully made it sound like they get no tax money from businesses involved in the income trust structure, and people seem to be buying this. I feel it's important that it be made clear to the Canadian public that governments get lots of tax money due to income trusts. As of March 31st, the Martinson family reminded Speaker that Canada Pension Plan had 80 individual income trust businesses in their portfolio. If it was such a bad idea for individual citizens to hold income trust, Mr. Speaker, as the government opposite would suggest, how could our public pension plan have invested in 80 of them? Bill Fisher says this in regard to the Minister for Multiculturalism, who had a town hall meeting in his riding the other day on income trust. He said, I was at that meeting last Saturday. I attended. Here's my comment. Quote, we worked hard to elect a Conservative government. We were rewarded with betrayal. The Prime Minister promised one thing and he did another. A $35 billion, I won't use the word, Mr. Speaker, but a $35 billion action that was not promised. This fellow says calling manure a rose doesn't change the spell, Mr. Speaker. The member who held the town hall meeting spoke a lot of a rose at the meeting, but few were fooled. He and the Prime Minister need to listen to Ralph Klein and repent, reimburse investors and seniors. You can't reward politicians by voting for them when they do not tell the truth. It encourages them to continue the practice. Another comment here, I don't remember reading in the party's platform opposite anywhere that you had decided to decimate the nest egg of hundreds of thousands of senior Canadians. This is despicable behavior from a government that touts itself as being accountable. Accountable to whom? Mr. Speaker, Art Moss, another senior, says, my RSP took a 25% haircut in the aftermath of the Halloween massacre. It has since recovered about 10%. However, the real pain of this legislation will come in 5 years when I convert to a RIF, and if all goes according to plan, my projected income will be down by $2,000 a month. The Minister of Finance calls this tax fairness. There is nothing fair about it. Another couple of comments, Mr. Speaker. I have 1 minute left. I have probably 400 comments here. Could I have a couple of hours, Mr. Speaker? Would that be?
Ask for unanimous consent.
I mean, if I could get unanimous consent to continue to table these comments from individual Canadians from the House, Mr. Speaker, I'd be a very happy guy, because I'd be able to tell these Canadians I came here and stood here today and actually got their voices to the floor of the House of Commons. Mr. Speaker, could we ask if that could be happened?
The honourable member has asked for the unanimous consent of the House. Is there unanimous consent? Not surprisingly, the honourable member doesn't have unanimous consent. Questions and comments? No, your time is up. Questions and comments? The honourable government whip.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I won't take all the time. I'm sure there's other members that would like to question this particular member. Throughout his intervention, Mr. Speaker, he used some very strong language, talked about despicable, and implored the necessity to tell the truth, Mr. Speaker, if I heard him correctly. Well, this particular member, Mr. Speaker, as I recall, said that he would resign his seat before he would turn to another party. Mr. Speaker, he said that there should be a process in place in this House, that members should not be allowed to change political stripes during a parliament. And yet we find, Mr. Speaker, that he's still here. He's still sitting here, Mr. Speaker. So my comments are, why? If he's so insistent upon people telling the truth, what about himself? Why didn't he tell the truth and resign his seat?
Honourable member for Halton.
Mr. Speaker, Mike from Rodney says you personally promised that you would not let other parties get away with taxing income trusts. Silly for us to assume that you condemned other parties for a promise your party was not willing to do. Another comment, Mr. Harper, Mr. Flaherty, and remaining Conservative MPs, you have placed our country in jeopardy with your policy regarding income trusts, changes in interest deductibility, and withholding taxes for corporations. Something...
Order. There has to be some intimation of relevance, so the member's perfectly in order, except he's not in order to keep using the names of ministers in the context of the letters. So we'll go to the honourable member for Peace River. Or, right beside. The honourable member beside the member from Peace River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I think the honourable member from Halton had missed his calling, because he treats this place as a theatre and does not take the issues seriously, and obviously is playing for the television. Here's what I want to ask. On November 7th, did he or did he not vote for the Conservative government's income trust motion? Second of all, my vote acknowledged that wholesale corporate conversions to trusts are unhealthy. Is this true or not that this was his words on www.garth.ca on November 6, 2006? Thirdly, reforming the income trust business and stemming the tide of conversions is necessary for the long-term health of this economy. Again, on his website, spoken by him. Is this true or not? Did he say it? Fourthly, too many new conversions, lost tax revenues, unfairness in corporate tax treatment, money leaking to foreign investors, the threat of the banks morphing into trusts. The writing was on the wall.
Okay. Order. The honourable member for Halton. The honourable member managed to get 3.5 questions in, and we've only got a little time left. The honourable member for Halton.
Dwight from Chatham says that blocking out a purported rationale by the Finance Department during the Finance Committee hearing shocked me. Then it was coupled with a hiding of the bill inside the budget, so no discussion on this measure would be possible in the House. These actions appear to cover up the guilty knowledge of the true facts. This could never stand up to public scrutiny. Harold says, in view of the Prime Minister's explicit election promise never to impose a tax on income trusts, and the fact that this promise undoubtedly gave existing and potential trust investors a high degree of comfort, why did the Minister of Finance not take one of the many routes available to him which could have accomplished this without destroying massive amounts of private...
Order. One last question, the honourable member for Sault Ste. Marie.
Thank you very much, Speaker. And I want to say that I admire the member's ability and effort to hear from constituents using the various technologies that are available today. It's probably in some ways a way ahead of his time. I was wondering if in his reaching out to his constituents and asking them to comment on the budget, if he went beyond the income trust and if he heard anything from seniors, for example, who are by the hundreds of thousands not getting their entitlements because the government has not acted on recommendations to change the way that information is disseminated, entitlements to seniors, and seniors themselves actually apply and then become automatically qualified for things like CPP, OAS, and GIS.
The honourable member for Halton. Brief.
Yes, thank you, Speaker. Actually, all of the people I'm quoting from right now are seniors. For example, Dave Marshall and his wife in Cornwall, Ontario say...
Order. Resuming debate. The honourable member for Vancouver Island North.